Welcome back to the Jenks Island Podcast, the only NFL podcast where your takes from a washed-up Division III corner and his friends. In today's episode, we're going to be breaking down the AFC and NFC West. This is going to be a fun one. Last week, we did the AFC and NFC East, and the week before that, we did the AFC and NFC South. So make sure to check those videos out as well if you missed those. In today's episode, the AFC and NFC Wests are two divisions that I think are pretty close in competition at the top of the divisions, and then at the bottom, it drops off a little bit. But this one's going to be fun. The rankings-wise for teams, Ethan, I'll let you go first. How would you rank the AFC West to start off?
So the AFC West, I think you have three clear teams at the top. Number one, I'm probably going to have to stick with the Chiefs. But again, like these top three teams are kind of in their own tier compared to the other team at the bottom. Number two, I'd probably go the Broncos. I think that they're going to take a step forward on offense, or even if they stay the same. I like their additions on defense, and I think that's probably going to be the best defense in the league. Number three, I'm going to go to the Chargers, the last of that tier. And then number four, I'm going to go to the Raiders. I think they'll be a scrappy team, but I don't know if they'll quite make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that last one especially. Ty, what are your thoughts on that, being the Denver fan in the pod?
Yeah, I mean, I have the same exact rankings, right? I think you got to stick with KC at one, right? They're coming off a Super Bowl, appearance, so you got to assume that they're going to come into this season with, riding off of that and continue to have success. But I think that Denver team and the Chargers team, they made a lot of good offseason additions, right? Denver, made some young additions on the offense, added Evan Ingram, a lot of additions on the defense. The Chargers add some backs in that backfield, so I think both those teams are really creeping on KC, and then it is Vegas, right? Vegas made a lot of good moves. I like the Pete Carroll move, Smith, Jeanty, but I think they still have a long ways to go with some of the pieces that surround guys like Bowers and Jeanty. Offensive line could use some help, defense especially around Crosby. So I think it is, pretty much how last season finished off standings-wise. I would flip Denver and the Chargers, put Denver at 2, but yeah, I think, we're in for a really good AFC West this season where both those second and third place teams could really take over that first place spot.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun battle between those three. And I think it would probably come down to week 18 and a few of these teams will be fighting for the wild card spots. I think I do have a different ranking. I have the Broncos at number 1. So Ty, stick to your guns, man. I think you guys can do it this year. I think the Broncos took a big leap this season. This past season, obviously, we saw what Bo Nix is capable of. And obviously, Sean Payton, as a Saints fan, I know what he is capable of as well. Once you see the direction start going in the right direction, he can really turn things around quickly. So I see them possibly taking the leap to the number 1 team. At number 2, I'm going to go with the Chiefs still. I think they obviously will be the number 2 team. They could fall to number 3. So here's my thing with the Chiefs. I think they could be anywhere from their 12 to 13 win team, but they could fall all the way down to 9 wins really quickly this year with their schedule. And I had that predicted on TikTok. I put a 9-8 schedule prediction for the Chiefs and got a lot of hate. Expect that with this video as well if I saying that. So the Chargers, I'll go with a 3, but I could see the Chargers jumping the Chiefs as well. It really is this 3-man race. It's anyone's game this season. And then the Raiders at the bottom as well. Next, moving on to quarterbacks. Ty, I'll let you go with Bo Nix, your quarterback coming in. What are your thoughts on this quarterback race? Who's at the top still?
Yeah, I mean, I think you still got to show some, respect to the Chiefs and respect to Mahomes, right? Mahomes is still a top 4 guy. I think it's him, Josh, Lamar, and Burrow, however you want to sort them out. So I think Mahomes is still at the top. At 2, I'm going to put Bo. I think Bo showed a lot of consistency last year, especially in the latter half of the season. And the offense around him just continues to get better, especially weapons in the passing game. I'm going to put Herbert at 3. I think he's the most overrated quarterback in the NFL. That top 10 ranking that came out last week, I mean, ruffled a lot of feathers, especially with him being ahead of Jalen Hurts. I mean, he has never won a playoff game. He just really hasn't done. A lot of people said, right, built in the lab. He's a perfect size, arm strength, athleticism, everything, but just hasn't done much. And then at 4, I'm going to put Geno, and that's not a slight at Geno. He's had a good, latter half of his career, but he's just, again, like the Raiders, just in a division full of dogs. So Mahomes, Bo, Herbert, Geno.
Ethan, what are your thoughts on that?
So I I do not think that Herbert is the most overrated quarterback in the NFL. But
Okay.
regardless, I think, Mahomes is number one with a bullet. Like, I don't think there's any argument for him to be anywhere 2 through 4 on this list. He just has that body of work. I would put Herbert at number 2. I don't think the playoff losses are entirely his fault. Like, the 4 picks this past year, obviously not something you want to see. But when you're throwing to one rookie wide receiver and your interior offensive line really isn't playing that great, as well as your defense, like, not really showing up to where it's supposed to be, I think you're going to lose most playoff games with like any quarterback behind your offensive line. And then I would put Geno at number 3. It's not any slight at Bo Nix or anything, but I just think Geno is like one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the NFL. He's supremely accurate. You'll get a lot of people that say, like, oh, he makes dumb decisions in the red zone. Really only last year is the time that we saw that, and I'm kind of just banking on that to kind of regress to the mean. So, and then I would have Bo Nix at number 4. Bo Nix could end up, I think, number 3 on this list, but I would firmly put him at like in the third 3 to 4 tier along there with Geno.
Interesting. So I got mine's slightly different from both of yours. I got Patrick Mahomes at number 1 still. Obviously, I think he is like Ty said. There's that top 4, and you can put him however you want, but those are the top 4 no matter what. At number 2, I'm gonna go Herbert as well. I don't think he is the most overrated quarterback, but I think there are times where you can definitely see like people overrating him and like, oh yeah, he is extremely talented. He is, but he fails to kind of show that sometimes on the field. But I think that also comes with what's around him, as Ethan just mentioned as well. And at number 3, I'm going to go with Bo Nix. I do think Bo Nix is above Geno Smith as far as I think Bo Nix, he fits so well within the Sean Payton system. And you could call him like a system quarterback, things like that. But it's the same thing. Geno Smith, before the system in Seattle, he struggled as well. So I think the system a quarterback is in really does help change his career and how we view them. And I think Bo Nix, he has the talent to go along with that system that I can put him confidently at number 3. And then at number 4, I'll put Geno Smith. I think, obviously, both of you guys, good points about Geno. I think Geno Smith is a solid quarterback in the league. He's kind of what you need to be average in the league as a team, but I don't think they're going to win a Super Bowl or anything like that or go to the playoffs because of Geno. He's not the guy that's going to carry you there. So we'll see how they all play this season, but I do think those are probably like those 1 through 3 are pretty locked in for me. And then Geno Smith is like a tier below all those other 3. Next, moving on to receivers. This is a little bit fun. I think for me, I'm going to have to go with the Chiefs at number 1. I think they have a really, really solid receiver room. Like, so even at receiver 2, if it's not Xavier Worthy, there could be a few other guys for them this season. But I think Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy is a really solid duo, especially for Patrick Mahomes. Giving them the ball, I think they're set up for a really successful season. And number 2, I'm going to go receiver 1, Pat Bryant for the Broncos coming in here. And then receiver 2, Courtland Sutton. Obviously, I don't actually think that's going to happen. I think Courtland Sutton's the receiver 1 still this season. But Pat Bryant, really, I mean, I've been on the Pat Bryant train since 3 or 4 months ago and a month or 2 ahead of the draft. And a lot of people were like, who's this guy, Pat Bryant? No one knows who he is. And then as soon as he got taken by the Broncos and Sean Payton said, oh, he's Michael Thomas, or he reminds me of Michael Thomas, people started realizing the name and seeing his name and realizing who he was and watching his tape and things like that and realizing this guy really does have star potential in the league. At number 3, I'm going to go Ladd McConkey and Trey Harris. I think Trey Harris will end up being that receiver 2 by the end of the year. I think Quentin Johnston, obviously, he's all over the place. And I think hopefully this year he turns it around once and for all. And then Mike Williams, obviously that vet presence for them as well. Number 4, I'm going to go Jacoby Myers, who I think is going to have a good season this year. I think he's being underrated heavily by everyone in the NFL media atmosphere. And then at the receiver 2 position, that's going to be either Jack Besh or Dante Thornton. He's been doing really well in their OTAs and off seasons and everything like that. He's a guy I think he's like 6'4", ran a sub 4.35, so he's built in my player in a video game. So this guy's going to be really solid. But I think those are my rankings. Ethan, what are your thoughts on that?
So I have similar rankings. I would put the Chiefs at 1. Assuming everyone's healthy, I kind of did my wide receivers as like the number 1 target earner and the number 2 target earner. So I had my wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 is Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy. And I think that's a good duo. I don't think it's like top 5 in the league or anything, but
Yeah,
you can definitely get by with Rasheed Rice and Xavier Worthy. And then number 2, I had Ladd McConkey and Quentin Johnston. I think that Quentin Johnston, like stepping into week 1, will probably still get more snaps than Trey Harris, and that's the reason why I had Quentin Johnston on here. Obviously, I don't think Quentin Johnston's like a great wide receiver 2 or anything. And then I had like them the same tier as the Broncos. I do think Ladd McConkey is a tier above Courtland Sutton, but I also think
I think
Courtland
that's fair.
Sutton is incredibly underrated. A lot of people like really don't realize what he does for that offense, and giving Bo Nix like not like an easy out, but giving a guy a chance by just like going up and grabbing the ball, and Courtland Sutton is super huge for that offense. And then I put Devon Vele, I guess, is their wide receiver 2. They have a couple of different guys that could be the wide receiver 2. But again, you can get by with that. I don't think it's bad or anything. I don't think it's top 10, but I think it's slightly under average. And then for number 4, I did have the Raiders. Jacoby Myers this is kind of like a division of like unsung heroes at wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Jacoby Myers has been solid over the past few years, and then Jack Bash, one of the more underrated receivers in the draft. And I think like this is kind of like a dirty work sort of wide receiver room. Myers does a lot of that. Bash does a lot of that, and I think it's going to mesh well with how the Raiders play, but not enough to move them out of 4.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Ty, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, similar to you guys at the top, I have Rice and Worthy, right? I think this is a weaker division when it comes to wide receiver duos and wide receiver rooms, but Rice is when healthy has looked really, really good. Worthy's obviously just an electric option alongside him, and if they can really get going, that Pat Mahomes needs him to be that kind of Tyreek Hill level option for them to take that top off. So looking for a big year 2 for him. At 2, I got Sutton and Mims. I think Marvin Mims, if you look at that latter half of the season, he really stepped into that wide receiver 2 role, kind of had his breakout there. Real speed option. That speed option for Denver, right? Bo Nix was able to throw some lasers to him. And they have Vele, they have Pat Bryant, who could step into a role. Vele last year when he was healthy, played really well. But I do think it's going to be Mims because he's kind of that complement to Sutton. Wide receiver 3, I have Ladd and I guess Quentin Johnston. I hate Q. I think he's garbage. He has shown us literally nothing in the league. I do think Trey Harris should take over his spot. If Mike Williams is healthy, I know he's on IR right now, I think, or one of the injury lists. I know he had something come up. Yeah, he if healthy, he could be that too. But I like Trey Harris a lot too. I think we talked about him in the pre-draft process a little bit, Jenks. If he could be a guy that slept on. And then at 4, it's Myers and Bash. I like Myers a lot too. I think he's slept on. He just kind of, works hard, puts up numbers that, no one's really going to, be like wow at, but they're consistent numbers year in, year out. And Jack Bash, like you said, Sturb, he's just an underrated prospect, kind of very similar to Myers, just like works hard, just that Raider mentality. So, but I just don't think they have a guy that, when you look at Rice, you look at Sutton, you look at Ladd, those guys you could talk about in the top 15 to 20 conversation. Jacoby Myers may be on the edge of that, but then it's a pretty big drop off to that wide receiver 2, in my opinion. So I'd have Chiefs, Broncos, Chargers, Raiders.
Yeah, I hate the Quentin Johnston, how hard he's fallen off, because when he came into the draft, I was very, very high. And I think he was my receiver 2 that year, which was definitely some recency bias at the time with him making it to the championship game. But geez, he's really just fallen to the depths. Ty, with the tight ends room, obviously Evan Ingram being a new addition to the Broncos. What's your thoughts on this tight end room, and how would you rank them?
Yeah, now, weak wide receiver room, really strong tight end division. So I'm going to have Brock Bowers at 1. Really came out last year, just showed, he could possibly be the best tight end in the NFL this coming season. At number 2, I have Travis Kelce. I think he showed a little bit of the drop off. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he fell into the 3 range. I don't think he's going to fall into the 4 range because he just is Pat's go-to guy. But you saw the fall off a little bit there, especially in the regular season. Had a bit of a stronger, finish to the playoffs, but still got to have Kelce at 2, show some respect to the Chiefs. At 3, I'll have Evan Ingram. Really excited for him, right? If he can stay healthy, he had some really good years in Jacksonville when he was healthy, but there were some of the injury concerns. So we'll see, what he can bring to this offense. But, Sean Payton knows how to unlock the tight end position, and it's a good safety valve for a young quarterback like Bo. And then at 4, I have Will Dissly and Tyler Conklin, right? Not really exciting options, kind of just, lumbering guys that can, they're bigger bodies. They'll catch some balls, but they're not going to do anything as electric as, those top 3 guys are. It's kind of tough to say who really is going to be that one, Dissly or Conklin. Right now, neither of them has really separated themselves in their career thus far. But I would go Brock, Kelsey, Evan, and then the Chargers tight end room.
Yeah, real quick, I gotta ask: do you guys think Brock Bowers? Obviously, the Raiders have added a lot of weapons at different places across their offensive room. Do you think that Brock Bowers takes a step back in targets? Do you think he's kind of similar to last year with all these new additions?
I mean, I think Geno likes his tight end room, right? He's peppered some passes to Noah Fant, Will Dissly when he was in Seattle, but he's never had a tight end like this, right? And I think if you look at, tight ends, there has been some regression in that year too. You look at Laporta, he had a bit of a regression, but around him, there was a lot of, Amon St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Montgomery, J-Mo, right? A lot of weapons around him. I think Pete Carroll knows that he needs to get Brock Bowers the ball. He truly is their wide receiver one, right? When you look at that room, we said Myers and Batch, it's not that, inspiring, but Bowers is that guy for them. I think they know they have to get involved. Chip Kelly's going to probably, dial up a lot of stuff for him. I just don't see that there's a way for him to take a step back with, how uninspiring that wide receiver room is.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Ethan, do you agree with that, or do you think you have a different answer?
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think his target share is going to be pretty much the exact same, but I think they're just going to run the ball more. So I think he's going to get less targets that way, but not in any way of like his play declining
on the passing plays. Yeah, I got you. I got you. Yeah, I'd have to agree with that because I think Ashton Jeanty is going to take some reps, man. They're going to feed him the ball. So we'll see exactly how it changes. Maybe like fantasy wise, it takes Brock Bowers' value down a little bit, but for the team, I mean, he's definitely the receiver one still. Moving on to the NFC West. So teams wise. Wait, what did I skip? Did I skip something?
You skipped AFC West running backs.
I got to do my tight ends as well.
How did I skip?
Do tight end.
Brock Bowers derailed me. Brock Bowers derailed me. Ethan, what are your thoughts on the tight end room?
I would go Bowers at number 1, obviously. He's a top 3 tight end stamped in the league. At number 2, I would actually have Evan Ingram. And 3 is Kelsey, obviously. I think Kelsey's like really on the decline of his career, and this is kind of like stepping into the regular season. Like, I really don't think Kelsey's going to produce that much. And I think Ingram, like, if you're picking an offense to plop in an Evan Ingram, like, Broncos offense might be number 1 on that list. So I think like Sean Payton's going to find ways to use him in creative ways that like maybe even we didn't see coming. And I'm super excited to see what that looks like. So I'll put Ingram at number 2, Kelsey at number 3. And then the Chargers, kind of weird tight end room at number 4. I know we mentioned like Will Dissly and Tyler Conklin, but I know Jenks and I are fond of Oronde Gadsden as well, who I think might be the target leader at the end of the season for that tight end room.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought him up. He's a really big steal at the end of all the dynasty drafts. Like, I know all the rookie drafts are past now, but people are letting him fall out of the rookie drafts, and he's someone that could really be a steal. I'm glad also you brought up Evan Ingram at number 2. He's same list. I have Evan Ingram at 2, Travis Kelce at 3. I think Kelce, we've seen him slow down so much in the past season until like the playoffs, right? He performs well in the playoffs, and I can give him props for that. But outside of that, just the regular season, I think he's going to really decline again this season. And also, I will say Evan Ingram is definitely better than Adam Troutman. So I'm happy for the Broncos fans out there. As a Saints fan, Adam Troutman, he didn't produce well for us. Anyways, moving on to the running back room. I can't believe I skipped over this because the running back room, this is a lot of fun to break down. I think this is a list that could be all over the place after number 1. At number 1, I'm going to go with Ashton Jeanty. I'm going to put him above everyone else, even though there is a vet in this running back room. At number 2, I'm going to go RJ Harvey, Alvin Kamara for that Broncos offense. At number 3, I'm going to go Isaiah Pacheco. I think obviously the angry runs get him somewhere, but he has really just I feel like he's underperformed and he's been unhealthy, unreliable the last season for the Chiefs. I think that kind of continues into this year. And I think they start trying to figure out who their running back 2 is and who takes the lead over him this season, which could be the rookie Brashard Smith this year. At number 4, I'm going to go Omarion Hampton. I think he obviously is a really, really solid running back. I think Najee Harris being out, possibly, I think it should just be for training camp, but if that goes into the regular season, that'll help him out too. But I think Omarion Hampton is going to be really solid for the Chargers as well. He's just going to start at 4, but he could easily be number 3 by the end of the year. Ethan, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I would put Jeanty number 1 clear in a tier of his own. And then at number 2, I would actually go Hampton. I think he's a guy like you can funnel a lot of touches to, and I feel very safe putting him in my running back position and giving him, 75% of my carries. He's big, he's explosive, he can't really make people miss at the elite level, but he can go through guys, and he's just going to keep churning all the time.
Yeah.
And then at 3 and 4, like I really couldn't pick between Pacheco and Harvey. I'm gonna go Harvey at 3. Just because of the receiving work.
Yeah.
I do think Pacheco's not that great of a receiver, maybe a little overrated in that aspect. And Harvey is kind of like a box of chocolates. You don't really know what you're going to get with him in the Sean Payton offense, right? But Pacheco, he's been injured. He's starting to decline even when he's not injured.
Yeah.
And I think this might be his last year on his rookie deal. But regardless, I still probably would feel more comfortable, even if he maybe won't get as many rushes, percent of the rushes. I'd probably be more comfortable with Harvey as my number 1 option than Pacheco.
It is Pacheco's last year under contract as well. So you're right there. Ty, what do you think?
Yeah, I took a little bit of a different approach to this because I think 2 of these rooms have a true, they're going to have a true 50-50 split. So at 1, I have Najee and Hampton. And I know, a lot of people sleep on Najee. I mean, when you look at the stats, top 5 in rushing yards since he entered the league, behind guys like Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs. I think if he can come back healthy from this injury, I know it's a freak injury, but I think he'll be fine.
Stop
I think him and Hampton,
fireworks, man. Stop with the fireworks.
It's crazy. I think him and Hampton will be a really good duo, especially considering the offense that they're in, right? They have 2 really good tackles there. That's the Harbaugh offense. They love to run the football. So I think they'll have a lot of success there. Jeanty at 2, I think he's just a pure talent. I think it kind of sucks that he is not a great offensive line, but talent-wise, he's probably, the best back in this division. At 3, I have Pacheco. It's tough for me on this one, right? Because I like thinking about the Pacheco before injury last year, right? I think he started the season off pretty strong. When he came back from injury, I felt like it was a little bit rushed. He didn't have a lot of success when he came back. But I am expecting him, in that contract year, right? We see a lot of guys have a lot of success, trying to play for that next contract. I think he will bounce back. And then at 4, I have Harvey Dobbins. Harvey Dobbins to me, I wasn't as excited when we took Harvey at first. You watch a little bit more film, you think more about it. I liked it a lot, right? And then we added Dobbins, kind of mucked up a lot of stuff. Dobbins, good back when he's healthy, but he has never really been healthy in his career. Had a really good year last year, but again, he missed like half the season with an injury. So I think it just does, tank Harvey's value a little bit. And I'm just interested to see, kind of how much does Jaleel McLaughlin get involved? How much is Audric Estime involved? Because Estime, bigger back, right? That's kind of a different, vibe to this backfield. Sean Payton's trusted Jaleel McLaughlin a lot. So if this was just a Harvey, backfield, I'd probably put him at 3. But I just can't trust that, Sean Payton's not going to use a lot of backs because we've seen him in his entire, coaching career with the Saints use a lot of different backs. So and last year too, right? With the Broncos, use a lot of backs. So I'm going to go with the Chargers backfield, Jeanty, Pacheco, and then the Broncos backfield.
Yeah, if you're getting a Broncos back in fantasy, expect a headache. Yeah, is all I'll say.
Yeah. I will say, unless it ends up being Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara 2.0, that's like the dream scenario, right? There's a lot of
potential there.
It's a tough situation for that to happen, but
stay healthy.
It's going to be valuable for sure.
It is, yeah. I feel like dynasty wise, you can be confident in your pick of Harvey, right? But I think redraft is where it would be like Harvey's a little bit iffier just because of J.K. Dobbins coming in this season. Now moving on to the NFC, after skipping over the running backs the first time around. The teams rankings for me, I'm going to go one. I'm going to go with the Rams. I think they're a tier above all the other three at this point in time. Number two, I'm going to go with the Seahawks. 3, 49ers, and 4 Cardinals. I think obviously Rams, this is their season. They really can compete for the NFC Championship, if not going to the Super Bowl this year in the NFC. This is really their probably last. They probably have 1 or 2 more years of really going at it with Matt Stafford. And then the Seahawks, they've built really, really well around Sam Darnold for this upcoming season. 3, the Niners, I just think there's a lot of uncertainty there for this offense with Brock Purdy. Maybe he comes out and really shows that he is that franchise quarterback for them. But a lot of these, like with a lot of their talent going down last season, he struggled. So I want to see him come out and really produce with a little bit of a weaker team this year. And then the Cardinals, obviously, younger, and they're still trying to kind of build up a team to compete with the other 3. So I'm going to have them at 4. Ethan, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so I have pretty similar rankings. I do have the Rams at 1, and then Niners at 2, Seahawks at 3, and then the Cardinals at 4. With the Rams, at their best, it's really hard to conceive of a team that's like on a level with them and competing for the Super Bowl because, when Matt Stafford's on a heater and you bring in Devontae Adams and you have a young secondary and, you have the defensive line that's probably top 5, if not top 3 in the league.
Definitely.
It's a formula for winning a Super Bowl. And I just think like Stafford, there's maybe like 2 or 3 quarterbacks that I would have more confidence in and performing in a playoff game than Stafford. He's just like such an elite performer. And then 2, I would go the 49ers. The 49ers and the Seahawks are kind of in the same tier for me. And probably the difference between the 2 is just my difference between Geno Smith and Sam Darnold. If they had kept Geno Smith, I probably would have the Seahawks at 2. But with the 49ers, like you invested in that defensive line, 4 different times in the draft or something like that. They got one of my favorite players, being a Purdue grad and this guy being IU. It's high praise. But CJ West is just a beast on the interior defensive line. I think he could maybe provide even more impact than Michael Williams. That may be a hot take, but you might get Christian McCaffrey back healthy. That's kind of a big question mark at this point.
Yeah.
But I have confidence that they're going to be back in the playoff picture. And then the Seahawks, you saw that defense really start to put it together, or not put it together, really start to hit their gear in the second half of the season with Mike Macdonald. I just think that's going to be getting better and better. You brought in Nick Emenwari, which is just like a nightmare for people. It's like, who's going to give Mike Macdonald this 6'3", 210 guy, Yeah. And then the weapons aren't in that great of a spot, in my opinion. The running backs are, but I liked Elijah Arroyo. But when you bring in Sam Darnold for Geno Smith, it doesn't really hit the same for me. So I would have them at 3, and then the Cardinals at 4. They really didn't make any changes on offense, and then took 2 high upside, really low floor picks on the defense. So I kind of just don't really know what to do with them at this point. It feels like the Cardinals. I like the Cardinals. I like them as a team, but I can't put them above any of these 3 teams, which kind of sucks.
Can't.
But
they're in a tier below them. But Ethan, real quick, you hating on my boy MVS, huh?
Yeah, for those that don't know what Jenks was just doing, he was doing an MVS with his hands.
I mean, he could definitely catch some 80-yard touchdowns.
Best deep ball throw in the NFL. People forget.
No, we were trolling about that all of last season, so that's why I brought that up. It was just kind of funny, but I will say it's a good weapon for them to land. Anyway, Ty, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean it's clear cut. The Rams are at the top, right? They're one of the NFC favorites to be back in the Super Bowl. I think at 2 and 3, it's kind of a toss up for me. I got 49ers at 2. I know that when they're healthy, they're going to be on. Seattle kind of similarly has some injury concerns for me sneakily, right? Like Kenneth Walker, Charbonnet, Cooper Kupp, all guys that have been consistently injured for that team. Obviously Cooper Kupp for the Rams, but, consistently injured. So can they stay healthy? Can the 49ers stay healthy? No, I'm just putting a lot of faith in Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy that, they'll be able to lead that team. And Seattle, I mean, listen, if we get the Sam Darnold that we saw last year, this easily could be, the second best team in that division, competing with the Rams in most games, right? Because we saw what Darnold was able to do in a division with Detroit, competing till the end of the season for that, division lead. But I want to see Darnold, continue on with that success under a new head coach, under a new offensive coordinator, although a familiar offensive coordinator. Clint Kubiak runs a very similar system as Kevin O'Connell does. So I think there will be some success there, but just want to see it translate in a new city with a new team and, just continue to stay healthy. And then at number 4, Jenks and I's, favorite frisky team, the Arizona Cardinals. They just haven't taken enough steps forward to be one of the better teams in that division. But man, they'll beat the Buffalo Bills in week 2 and then they'll lose 6 straight games after that. So you never know with this team, but they're frisky. I love them.
Yeah, they're a WTF team. You just don't know what to expect from every single week. And it messes you up for the picks. So like during the weekly pick'ems this upcoming season, you'll see us be like, oh yeah, we believe in the Cardinals, and then they'll shit the bed really badly. So we'll see how that plays right back out. Moving on to quarterbacks here. Ethan, what are your thoughts on the quarterbacks of this division? How would you rank them?
Yeah, so I would have Stafford in his own tier clearly, and I kind of talked about him when I previewed the Rams, but he's just incredibly accurate. Like I love the no look throws that he does, but he's really really tough too, and their offensive line is solid. I feel, but he handles pressure pretty well. I feel for a guy who's not really all that mobile, especially at his age. But I would put him number 1. And then number 2, this was a little tough for me because Kyler Murray, when he's on, he's number 2. So I did go with Kyler Murray as number 2 because I think if you do a little thought exercise, if you put Kyler Murray in the 49ers offense and Brock Purdy in the Arizona offense, I don't think they're good fits for each other, but I do think Kyler Murray would kind of show that, he belongs as a top 15, top 13 quarterback in the NFL. So I had him at number 2. And that's nothing against Purdy. I'm a big Kyler fan. So I would put Purdy at number 3. This guy, under pressure, I feel like he's pretty misunderstood. He was incredibly mobile, escaping the pocket last year and did some stuff you're Brock Purdy. You're not supposed to do that. And then he's just consistently doing it week after week where he's carrying the offense. He's having to deal with a terrible situation for a few games, not the entire year. But he was legitimately a wizard at times last year. And then 4, I would put Darnold. This is nothing against Darnold either. I don't think he's that great. I think he's dead average. But this just happens to be a good quarterback division.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And just letting everyone know, there was just breaking news about Von Miller going to a new team. We will break that down after we break down this division, so stay tuned for our reaction to that. Ty, what would you rank for these quarterbacks? Would you differ from Ethan, or do you agree with Ethan on this list?
Yeah, I agree with him. I think Staff is the clear-cut one. I'm also very high on Kyler. I think he just has never really had much talent around him, but I think he's super talented, and when he's been able to stay healthy, has really popped off. Purdy, I like him a lot too, right? It's not a slight on him. I just think, Kyler brings a little bit more athletically. I think he's just a higher talent, right? Kyler Murray was picked number 1 overall for a reason. And then at 4, I have Darnold. And Darnold, for me, I know last season, right, I was very high on him and how he's performing. If he was back in Minnesota, I think I'd be similarly higher on him. But like I said, with the team rankings, right, it's how will he perform in a new offense in a new city with new weapons. Darnold has the ability to be the number 2 quarterback in this league or in this division. Based on how he was, not in the league, division, just based on how he was last year, right? I mean, he was in the MVP conversation for a lot of the season. Was top 5 in a lot of different statistics. So Darnold, I'm going to put him at 4 just based on his track record and, the fact that he's switching teams after one good season, but really, really could be that number 2 guy.
Yeah, I'm going to differ a little bit. I'll go. I'm pretty sure. So I got Matt Stafford at 1. 2, I'm going to go Brock Purdy. I think Brock Purdy, right? He's a little bit younger, and he hasn't proven himself. But I think this is the year where he does prove himself. I said I want to see him do that when I was ranking the teams, and I think he will. I think Brock Purdy, like you said, Ethan, there's a few plays last year that he made. It's like, you're Brock Purdy, you're not supposed to be making those, and he did that last year, and I think he'll do it again this year and prove the haters wrong. I think he's a top 15 quarterback in the league. And I think this year he proves that. And whereas Kyler Murray, I see similar range, right? I think he could be towards 15, maybe at the lower end, 14, 15, 16, 17, in that range for Kyler Murray for me. I think he's still a really good quarterback, doesn't have a lot around him, and I think he uses his legs really well. So I think he's going to be a guy this season that, if he stays fully healthy, will have a really good season, and is a guy that you could pick in a dynasty or fantasy redraft league and be comfortable with. And then 4, Sam Darnold. Still not a Darnold believer. I wasn't last season. I'm still not this season. I think obviously Darnold, he could obviously go out, ball out with the Seahawks and make me eat my words. But I just think Sam Darnold will take a little bit of a step back from last season for the Vikings. I think he'll take a step back with the Seahawks. So we'll see how that situation plays out. Next, at running back, this one's a lot of fun. I think this one is really, really tough. You could rank these 4 in absolutely any way you would possibly want. But Ty, what are your rankings for this division?
These 4, I think you could rank 3 of these guys really in any way. I'm going to start at the bottom. 4. I think James Conner is my 4th, right? I don't think he is nearly the talent that these top 3 guys on the other teams are. I know he's kind of consistent, consistently. I wouldn't say he's consistently great. I don't even know if I'd say he's like consistently good. I think he's fine, right? He's a fine back. He might get you 1,000 yards. He's a bigger back, get you a couple touchdowns in the red zone. But I think for me, right, when you look at what the other 3 backs bring, it's a lot more, shiftiness in the pass game. For me, it's CMC at 1, right? When CMC's healthy, I mean, he's a top 2, 3 back in the NFL, right? Teams, you're looking at him in a redraft every single year as maybe he should be the number 1 guy. I mean, even at this point, right, with all these injuries, people still look at him as, should I take him in the top 5? So number 1 for me is CMC. Number 2, I'm going to go with Kenneth Walker, another guy that's kind of been banged up the past couple of years, but, very, very electric option, probably a top 10 back when healthy. And then number 3, I'm going to go with Kyren Williams. Again, another really good back. This is kind of like you said, it's a division loaded with backs. Kyren Williams, we talked about him a bit in the running back ranking, struggled with the fumbles a little bit, but when he was on and non-fumbling, I mean, he again similarly was probably close to a top 10 back, if not a definitive top 10 back. So I'm going to go CMC, Kenneth Walker, Kyren, James Conner. I'm just not a James Conner guy at all.
Yeah, if Kyren Williams didn't fumble in the Eagles game, they could have feasibly won that game. That the Rams could have very easily won and beat the Eagles and possibly been the Super Bowl contender for the NFC last year. So Kyren Williams, if he cleans that up, he's definitely a really high up there running back for me. At number 1, I'm gonna go CMC as well if he's healthy. I think that's a big if though right now. I think that's his whole career outside of a couple of years ago. For the 49ers, he's been really inconsistent health-wise, and the best ability is availability. So I want to see him prove that this year and stay healthy again. Number 2, I'm going to go Kyren Williams. I think this guy has all the talent in the world. They did run him into the ground a little bit last year, so I want to see if he's able to stay healthy this upcoming season. Number 3, I'm going to go James Conner. I am a James Conner believer. I think he's a guy that is very underrated. And I think Ty obviously is like, he's not a fan, and I respect that 100%. But I think he's a guy that when you look to be, when you want a reliable running back for both fantasy and if you're an actual NFL team and you want a reliable running back, you go get James Conner, give him the ball, and you can get 4 yards a carry. You can pass the ball. You can do literally whatever you want with him. And I think he can still provide you a solid running back. And number 4, I'm going to go Kenneth Walker. I'm not the biggest Kenneth Walker fan. I've picked him in fantasy, and he's spurned me one too many times. I don't think the guy can stay healthy at the level I want him to. And obviously he has the talent when he is healthy, but I haven't seen enough from him yet to put him above any of those three above him on my list. Ethan, what are your thoughts on that? And would you disagree with either of us or both of us?
Really agree nor disagree with any of you guys. Like, I think you could literally flip a coin 3 times or 4 times or whatever and come up with a list, and I'd be like, okay, that sounds fair. I put McCaffrey at 1 just because, when he's healthy, he's, offensive player of the year or whatever.
Yeah.
But you really don't know what that's going to look like. So kind of took an easy answer at number 1. Because if he wasn't healthy or just whatever he is going into the season, I don't know where to put him. So I put him at number 1. At number 2, I have James Conner. So the word that Jenks just said was reliable, and that's what really sticks at. Like, if there's an epitome of reliable in the NFL right now at running back, it is James Conner. And like his advanced rushing numbers, like his rush yards over expectation the past 2 years have been like really, really good. And I'm like, what is James Conner doing here? And I've been a James Conner hater, and I'm kind of just done doing it now because he keeps making me look dumb. So I have James Conner at number 2. At number 3, I have Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker is like incredibly talented, incredibly athletic. He does some like questionable things on the field where it's like, why are you bouncing that? Why are you not bouncing that? Like, I don't think his vision's very good. And it's like, he'll have like a highlight play, like his somersault, sumo, whatever thing that he did. I don't even know what to call it. Where it's like, who are you? And like, why are you not doing this more times per game? But I would put him at number 3. I think he could take on like a full workload rather than just being like in and out with injuries and stuff like that. We haven't really seen that, but I do have confidence that he could do it. And then number 4, I would put Kyren Williams. Kyren Williams just kind of gets a lot of volume. I kind of did these rankings like independent of how much volume they would get. So, and then like the fumbling obviously is a pretty big issue. So I put him at number 4.
Yeah, he's my dynasty back in my one league. So I really need him to start holding on to the football this year. I really need him to turn that around. Moving on to receivers. This is a fun receiver division for me. Ethan, what are your thoughts on them and how would you rank them?
So this is another one, like when healthy, you don't really know what's going on with the San Francisco wide receivers. Like how is Ayuk going to look coming back from that injury? But I love Brandon Ayuk. He's one of my favorite wide receivers. So I had Ayuk and I had Juwan Jennings listed as a wide receiver too. It could be.
You have him at 1?
Yes, I do have them at 1.
Wow.
I have them at 1. And then, oh wait, no, I didn't read these. My bad.
Okay.
I have them at number 2. I have them at number 2. My bad. Yeah, I was looking at my RB rankings next to my wide receiver names.
All good.
All right, yeah. So let me retry that. I obviously have Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams at number 1. Right. These are both top 10 wide receivers in the league to me. Both of these guys you can still funnel like 9 targets a game to, and I'd be comfortable with that. Or 9 targets in a game too. Mm-hmm. And like Puka Nacua is such a dog. Adams, like one of the best technicians of our time. I don't really see any cornerback rooms that are really going to be able to deal with this in the NFC. Maybe the Eagles, we'll see. And then I have Ayuk and Jennings at number 2. Kind of went over that already. And then number 3, this is where it kind of really drops off for me. I have JSN and Cooper Kupp. I do not have MVS as the wide receiver 2. But JSN is kind of not a target merchant, but like his number 1 trait is that you can feed him the ball a lot. And I don't find that particularly valuable as a wide receiver 1. It's kind of like not like a sort of similar thing to Rashee Rice. He's not an incredibly similar player, but it just doesn't move me when you're kind of like average producer in the offense, but you're producing the most, if that makes sense. And then Cooper Kupp, you kind of just have questions of like how good he's going to be. Speaking of Cooper Kupp, go check out Jenks' video on him.
Oh, good shout out.
Good shout out. And then number 4, I would have Marvin Harrison Jr. and Michael Wilson. And Michael Wilson's like probably not good enough to be a wide receiver 2 in the league. And I still have a lot of stock in Marvin Harrison and how good he can really be. And if you look at his dad's numbers and his numbers in like their first seasons, like identical, which is kind of funny. But I think Marvin Harrison has like a top 7-ish wide receiver ceiling, top 5 if everything goes well. But we just kind of have to see it. So that's why I have him at 4.
Yeah. My 1 and 4 are the same. My 2 is different. I got JSN and Cooper Kupp at number 2 for me. I think, and obviously MVS and receiver 3. Let's go. Obviously, I think Cooper Kupp, like you already said, Ethan, it depends on if he's healthy as well as, I mean, what his role in this offense is going to be. If he's going to have a similar role as JSN, I think he could produce. But they're both similar guys. I feel like are more of slot type guys, route technicians in the slot that I want to see how they kind of put both of them into the offense as a receiver 1 or receiver 2. And like you said, Ethan, check out the Cooper Kupp video I just put out. And Michael Thomas, Cooper Kupp, very similar careers and people aren't really talking about. So I made a video about it. At number 3, I'm going to go Brandon Ayuk and Juwan Jennings or Ricky Pearsall, whoever's going to be their receiver 2. I think that's a solid receiver room, but I want to see it's like an iffy one. I think all 3 of those guys can produce and can be good receivers. I just want to see them do it again because Brandon Ayuk took a step back last season, in my opinion. I want to see him kind of bounce back. And then Juwan Jennings had a breakout year, but I want to see him back that up with a good season this year. Ty, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Devontae and Puka are the clear-cut one. And, I have JSN and Kupp too. I'm really high on JSN. And I don't think we can knock him for being a target merchant if we're going to say that Devontae and Puka can be like 9 target guys, right? I think JSN really took over that role at that second half of the season. He became wide receiver 1, and DK Metcalf was still there, right? He made DK Metcalf expendable because he became their number 1 option in that latter half of the season. And when Kupp's healthy, Kupp is obviously one of the better receivers in the NFL, but it just, will he be healthy? For me at 3, I also have Ayuk and Juwan, but I mean, if we see Ayuk return to what he was last year, there's a real good possibility that I was teetering on this. Marvin and Wilson could be at number 3 there, just because I'm high on Marv. I think he's going to take a step up this coming season. I know Ayuk missed a lot of time last year, but when he was healthy to start the season, just looked awful. Really looked like he was not on the same page as really anyone on the offense.
Mm-hmm.
Just could not get it going. Juwan Jennings, right? He's asking for a trade. Pearsall, he got shot last year and then came back and he didn't really do much in the second half of the season. It's just the 49ers find a way every single season for something to be chaotic with that team. Last year was Bosa and it was Debo and it was Ayuk and now it's, Juwan Jennings. It's just, there's always something going on there. And I think it takes a toll on their play on the field. And I would not be shocked if by the middle of the season, we could see Ayuk and whoever their wide receiver 2 is, if Juwan's still there, if it's Pearsall, being the worst wide receiver group in that division.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the Cardinals, I want to see Maserati Marv really step up. Had to throw that nickname out there. It's just too sick. But I think Marvin Harrison, right? Marvin Harrison Jr., I should say. I want to see him really take that leap this year. And if he can, he can definitely just carry that receiver room into that 3 conversation, like you just said. Moving on to tight ends, this one, not as good as the AFC West, but still solid nonetheless. At number 1, I'm going to go George Kittle. I think George Kittle, time and time again, has proven that he is one of the top 3 tight ends in the league. And I think that's, even with age, like we're saying, I think, at least I've been thinking it, when is it going to be the year that George Kittle kind of like takes a step down, right? When is he going to not be the top option for the 49ers? And last year he didn't do that. He balled out again last year, and I think he'll do it again this year. And then at number 2, I'm going to go Trey McBride. I was tempted to even put Trey above George Kittle, but then I remember the stats. I'm like, Trey McBride didn't really score very much last year. I think it could be a similar situation. Obviously, I think he'll score a few more times, but George Kittle is a scoring threat for that 49ers offense, so I'm going to put him above Trey. And then number 3, I'm going to put Tyler Higbee or Terrence Ferguson. I think both of those guys are solid. I think Terrence Ferguson is going to be the tight end 1 by the end of the year, though, for the Rams. And at number 4, I'm going to go with Noah Fant. Ethan, what are your thoughts on that? Do you disagree or agree with that ranking?
Yeah, so I do have Kittle and McBride 1 and 2. Kittle's the best tight end in the league right now, in my opinion. All around tight end, in my opinion, because Brock Bowers is kind of his own thing. And then number 2, have Trey McBride. Obviously, what you just said, I think he's there's no way he doesn't score more touchdowns this year.
It's crazy. Yeah, it was a crazy situation.
Like, yeah, like everything that he does for that offense is pretty underrated. Like you could see his was it year 2 breakout 2 years ago? Yeah, I think it was. And like how much of a beast he is after the catch. Like I feel like that's a kind of underrated aspect of his game. And then number 3, I actually have Elijah Arroyo, who I was a big fan of in the pre-draft process. I kind of just went with that here.
I like that.
I do think he's going to be better than Noah Fant. Maybe like, I do think he's better than Noah Fant right now, but I think he's going to be the tight end 1 probably pretty early. He was like a big target for Cam Ward, big reliable target, and he's good after the catch too. So I think he's a great all-around weapon to add for that offense. And then number 4, I did have Terrence Ferguson. Higbee's really getting up there in age, and it could be like another like Elijah Arroyo, Noah Fant situation where Ferguson takes over pretty early into the year, and maybe they have like these guys working in 2 tight end sets, playing a little different roles. I do think Ferguson is probably a better receiver than a receiving threat than Higbee on day 1, though, but not enough to move him out of 4.
I think it's respectable. Ty, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, the same list as you, Jenks, with Kittle, McBride, and then Ferg, Higbee, and Fant Arroyo. I really do think Ferg is probably going to take over that job early. I don't know about Arroyo, though. I think we've only really saw him, have success in that one season with Cam Ward. He didn't do much, in his career outside of that. And I think Fant is a decent enough option that he's always going to get some reps. He never really had that breakout that a lot of, fans were hoping.
Every year, say.
Dude, when Denver drafted him, it was the same year that him and Hawkinson came out, right? And you've seen the career Hawkinson had. He's arguably been top 5 tight end every year that he's been healthy. So just disappointing. But Kittle, McBride, might be 2 of the most underrated tight ends in the league. McBride obviously, has broke out a couple years ago, but really Kittle, every single year he was going neck and neck with Kelsey. One guy leads the league in receiving yards at tight end, and then the other one, right? They had so many seasons back and forth where they were going crazy, and everyone kind of just sleeps on Kittle. And you talked about it, Jenks. When's he going to start to fall off? We've seen him outlast Travis Kelsey at this point, right? And I think it's just Kelsey's body, I think, is a little bit bigger than Kittle, so it's kind of breaking down. But Kittle is just a grinder, and I think he's really slept on. Like Sturb said, he's probably the best tight end in the league, him and Brock Bowers, and it's just so slept on.
And the crazy thing is he's blocking and everything. Like he will do absolutely whatever the team asks him to do. He'll go and block someone for 20 seconds on a play. He'll block them like Michael Ower in the blind side and just go body someone off the field. And then the next play, catch a touchdown and then flip his shirt up and say, F the Cowboys, whatever. Like the guy does absolutely everything you want. He's a great character on the team. Obviously, I hated him for a little bit because of what he did to the Saints in the Saints 49ers game a few years ago. But ever since, I just have to respect the guy. He's a dog. Really quick, I will say that Elijah Arroyo, I was really high on him in the draft process as well. I do think that there's a clear route for him to be the tight end 1 of the after a few games for the Seahawks. I think that he has everything it takes to be like a real slot producer, not like a guy down the seams. I feel like the seams are going to be his real where he excels in the NFL. So I think he'll be really solid, but it depends on when. Like when we'll see that, I think it maybe be like mid-season, something like that. Rapid fire, real quick. Ty, what would you rank the divisions at this point in time? At last week, Hammer ranked NFC East number 1, AFC East number 2, AFC South 3, and NFC South 4. Where would you add these 2 teams into that list, or these 2 divisions?
So we got the East and the South. I think the AFC West, I think, is number 1 as far as the AFC divisions go. I think they're just so top heavy. After that, the NFC West, they could be right behind him. I think, the Rams, the 49ers, the Seahawks, both of these just really, really top heavy. After that, I think, the Souths are going to be at the bottom for me. And then I think I would go with the NFC. I think I'll go NFC East at 3, AFC East at 4, AFC South at 5. Or NFC South at 5, AFC South at 6. The AFC South is probably the worst division in football.
Yeah. No, I would agree with everything, but I think I would have the NFC East above the NFC West, and then I would have
That's
the
fair. I think I
AFC
just
West at the
think
top.
about the Giants versus the Cardinals, right? And I think the Cardinals.
That's fair.
Giants.
That's a
Yeah.
good argument. That's a good
That
argument.
was going to be my
Ethan,
point. So I have the same list as Ty purely for just the reason of like the Giants and the Cardinals being a massive chasm between
there is a gap.
division.
There is a gap.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see. I think I would argue that the Cowboys and Commanders are better than the Seahawks and 49ers and like by like a little bit amount and would like even it out. So I'm fine with really either way. Anyways, rapid fire real quick. We got 3 topics to discuss because we're nearing almost an hour on the episode. Second rounders right now. 2 have been signed. Carson Schwessinger and Jaden Higgins are the only 2 so far. When do you think these other draft picks are going to start signing? And do you think it's going to start affecting a lot of training camps across the league?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be rapid fire coming up here soon because of training camp starting, like you said. I don't think all of them are going to get done because we're seeing, guys like Shemar Stewart, we'll talk about in a minute. He's starting to drag out, right? Jay Barron finally got done. So the first round picks outside of Stewart are done. But I think we'll start to see those second round picks go rapid fire because of training camp starting. But I do think there will be some holdup.
Yeah. Ethan, anything to add to that?
Yeah. So the reason why the second rounders are seemingly holding out is because Jaden Higgins and Schlesinger got fully guaranteed rookie deals. And like, I think the other rookies are kind of like the other second round rookies are kind of seeing like, oh, this is a possibility now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like a standoff of when like the third and fourth are going to sign. Because I think they saw like I'm not sure which one was the first between the 2, but they're like, oh yeah, he got a total guaranteed. That's cool. And then the second one came in and was like, oh, this is possible now, so we should hold out together. But yeah, with training camp coming up, I don't see it lasting too much longer.
Yeah, they got
like teams aren't really budging on giving. You got to have 30 more teams that are all willing to do guaranteed deals. So, and there's been no motion on that. So
I think once that third person signs, it's just going to be a domino effect, and you're going to see everyone else sign either the same day or the day after, and it's just going to be really, really quick. I will say the Saints are a team that I really want to see how it affects with Tyler Shuck being the second round pick for them, possibly being the quarterback that Kellen Moore wants to go in and lead the season off with. So will they go out and just be the first team that says, hey, we'll give the quarterback fully guaranteed, or are we just going to try to hold that out? And if they do, will he hold out from training camp? Because then that gives Spencer Rattler a real advantage to try and possibly be that QB1. But it is an interesting quarterback battle for sure.
I'll say this, though. I think it's 2 organizations that were very poorly run that gave away these contracts. I think players and teams will quickly realize, like the Texans ownership group has always been, very poor, and then the Browns are just a shit show. So I think teams, agents, players will quickly realize, like, okay, some of these better run organizations are not going to do this stuff, right? They never have and they never will. So I think there will be some breakdown.
It makes sense.
Yeah, I think like Shuck probably he's probably has a really good chance of getting a fully guaranteed deal because it kind of looks bad if your rookie quarterback like holds a grudge against you, and you just took him in the second round with a new regime. So he's in really a unique position compared to all the other second round quarterbacks because he's viewed as like the Saints week 1 option at quarterback.
Yeah, and I will say, Ty, I think Shuck is like the one player in the group that probably wouldn't affect, like if the Saints went and did it, I don't think it would really affect like these other teams where they're like, oh yeah, we have to go and give everyone guaranteed money. I don't think it would affect it. No, yeah. Anyways, moving on to Shemar Stewart. This is a guy that obviously we've seen the Bengals situation. What their front office is doing right now is basically they're really screwing everything up on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, Trey Hendrickson is trying to get paid, trying to get what he's worth. Is he maybe asking for too much? Maybe, but I think they're not even offering in the ballpark what he's asking, which is truly a mistake from that organization. He's really the centerpiece of that defense and what keeps that defense together. And we're seeing it impact the Shemar Stewart situation with him not getting paid. Now they're also holding back from giving a contract to Shemar Stewart that they see is acceptable. And we just saw there was a rumor floating around that Shemar Stewart went back to Texas A&M, has been practicing with them in the offseason, doing the workouts, and is trying to go back to NCAA to play for the upcoming season and then get redrafted next season. To me, I feel like there's no possible way for that to be legal, because I don't think once you declare for the draft, you can come back, because then you'll see players start to do that. Oh, I'm getting drafted to a team I don't want to play for, things like that. Immediately just go back to the college. And I don't think we'll see that be possible. And I also think he's represented by an agent. So I think that makes it, there's some legality issues there. But what do you guys think about that situation?
Yeah, the agent doesn't hold up anymore because of the NIL stuff, but there
Yeah,
are NCAA regulations about once you've been drafted, you can't go back. Otherwise, we probably would have saw guys like John Elway and guys like that, Bo Jackson, go back to school, but they were drafted, so they had to force a trade. So I don't know how this is going to shake out, but I know, there's probably a 0% chance that he's able to go back. He'd have to petition the NCAA. The season starts in a month. I just don't see any way that's going to happen. I think it's a lot more likely that he ends up not signing, and then he can still go into the 2026 draft, but he would just have to take a whole season off. I think there's maybe a chance of that, but I don't know, man. I mean, Cincinnati's got to budge at some point with these guys, right? Like Joe Burrow's got to be like, dude, just pay the damn guy. Like, and it was one clause that, has really hung this up, and Cincinnati's never done that before. I think some other teams, I think Pat McAfee was kind of talking about this. Some other teams have done it before, but Cincinnati hasn't. I don't know, man. There seems like there's no resolution to this because neither team is really working, neither side is really working together at this point.
Ethan, what do you think?
So I read into a bit. It seems like it has something to do with like avoiding guaranteed money, which is kind of shady if you like say it out loud, like voiding guaranteed money, especially for like a guy coming into the NFL. I don't think that should be something that should be like by the Bengals front office, just like kind of like setting a precedent, like making an example of Shemar Stewart being like, hey, we can take away your money even if we draft you. Like I don't think that's the right thing to do, and I don't think Shemar's, any more in the wrong for holding out. I think the deadline is like week 10, to where if he doesn't sign a deal, then he can't play the rest of the season and has to re-enter into next year's draft. I think probably the most likely outcome is I think you can trade his rights even before he's signed into his rookie deal. I don't even know what you're going to get back at this point, because like everyone knows that the Bengals are going to lose out on him if they don't trade him. So like, what are you going to get? Like a 6th or 7th round pick?
Probably the highest.
This whole thing is just a like shit show, and just like Bengals, like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I think if you're trying to pick one or the other, I think you have to move on from Hendrickson. He's getting up there in age. As much as I hate to say that, right? Like I want you to keep Hendrickson. I think he's at this point in time, at this very moment, he's probably the better player that plug and play than Shemar Stewart. But you also like, he's your future. He's a little bit cheaper than Trey Hendrickson would be if you pay him. So I think they move on from Hendrickson, go pay Shemar what he's worth.
The thing is, though, they don't have to move on from either of them. They have the money to pay Trey and pay Shemar Stewart. So it's not even a money issue between the two that's holding it up.
Yeah.
It's their own. They're just a poorly run organization.
It's wild.
Mike Brown runs a shit show over there.
And they just showed that they're going to shell out money for the offense, right? They just showed like, oh, we value these guys this much, but yeah, we're just not really going to.
They're going to sell jerseys. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow sell jerseys. But at the end of the day, it's not going to help them win games. That's what Mike Brown cares about. Then
we saw it last season. The defense really, really sold them throughout the season, and now they don't even realize. So
yeah, and I think they theoretically have the money to pay all these guys, but like you've drafted so poorly in the past few years that like you have no cheap talent. So it's like, it's legitimately going to be stars and scrubs out there if you bring Trey Hendrickson back, and that's just, you can't win like that.
Yeah. So we'll see how it plays out. It's going to be probably the next couple weeks with training camp starting. They're going to really try to have to get that figured out here shortly. Anyways, moving on, rapid fire real quick. Terry McLaurin, he's trying to get a lot of money, right? Terry McLaurin's out here. He wants to get paid. It's sounding like he's wanting above 30 mil. Ethan, do you think that Terry McLaurin deserves above $30 million?
Probably not, just because, and it's really not fair to Terry at all, because like he just got a good quarterback, but he's he's kind of at that age cliff where like he could take a step down in the next like season or 2 seasons or so.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't really be comfortable paying him 30 mil. Just looking at contract average and value, that would put him at tied for 9th, just above T. Higgins on the new deal that he got. I would probably, considering age, I'd probably rather have T. Higgins at this point. So no, I don't think he's worth the 30 mil. But it's no slight to Terry. It sucks for his situation that like just now his talent was maximized with Jane Daniels.
Ty, what do you think? Is Terry worth 30 mil?
Yeah, I mean, when you look around at the league and the way that guys are getting paid nowadays, right? Garrett Wilson just became a top 5 paid receiver. And is Garrett Wilson a top 5 receiver? No chance in hell. I don't even think he's a top 10 receiver. So, is he worth $30 million? No, but do you have to pay Terry McLaurin because he's Jaden Daniels' guy and you cannot screw your, quarterback going into year 2? Yeah. So I don't think they really have a choice whether they think he's worth $30 million or not. Because what's your next, best option? Noah Brown, I'm pretty sure he just got hurt. You look around the receiver room and you look around the NFL and what are they going to get? Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, way older guys. There's just they have no choice. It's got to be Terry. You added Debo. You didn't add Debo to just be, now all of a sudden, he's the guy, right? You added him to continue to improve the receiver room alongside Terry McLaurin, not get rid of him. You got to pay him even if he's not worth it.
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. I don't think you should be giving Terry McLaurin at this point in time, this age, $30 million. And obviously it sucks, right? He was loyal to the franchise when it was really at its lowest. And now that it's at its highest, he's probably not worth the money that he wants. And that sucks for him. But with Ty coming in with that argument, I think that's 100% true as well, right? You need to kind of keep your receiver one for your young quarterback in his year 2. So maybe like you could possibly try to go a 1 or 2 year deal for 30 mil in each of those years. If you go longer than 2 years, there's no shot in hell you're giving him 30 mil each year. There's just none. I don't think you could afford to do that at his age and things like that. I think maybe if you go into 3 years, 4 years, it would have to be 25. So maybe a little bit lower than that. And I think that's kind of what he's worth at this point in time. I want to see how it plays out. I think the Commanders are obviously right in this great spot to go and compete this year. So I just don't want to see it get just blown up by this whole contract situation for them.
Yeah. So I was kind of looking at it in a vacuum when I pay Terry 30 mil. I wouldn't, but like for the Commanders, like both of you guys said, they don't really have any other choice. And since you have Jane Daniels on his rookie contract, like maybe you sign him for like 2 years, 30 million and put some like signing bonuses in there so you can cut him off the books and save some money in year 2 if you really need, or do the same thing with like a 3-year deal and then just keep him for 2, cut him after the 2. But just like you need to have avenues for navigation of the cap with like a competing window open.
Yeah. And then real quick to end the episode, Von Miller has signed or is going to sign with the Commanders. So speaking of the Commanders with Terry McLaurin, they just signed Von Miller, an aging defensive end that showed some flashes for the end of the season with the Bills. Do you guys think that this makes the Commanders true Super Bowl contenders, or is it just kind of a depth piece? Not a depth piece, but just an average addition for them?
If you add Vaughn to a lot of teams, right, I don't think it's that big of a deal at this point of his career. I think, he's a 6 to 8 sack guy, rotational guy. Mm-hmm. But then when you look at that defensive line for Washington, right, they really needed an edge rusher and didn't add that. There was rumors about Trey Hendrickson. There was rumors they were going to go get one in the first round. They didn't do that. I think they needed to bring in a guy like Vaughn. Veteran presence, right? He's going to get you, like I said, maybe 6, 8 sacks, maybe at best 10 sacks. That's better production than you were going to get otherwise. So I think it does really take them another level up. I don't know, they were always in the Super Bowl contender conversation, but it doesn't make them the favorite, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I'm kind of like right in that same line of agreement with Ty. It maybe takes them like up like a couple percentage points in terms of winning the Super Bowl, but I don't think it puts them above the Rams. I don't think it puts them above the Eagles, neither the Bills, Ravens. I still think they're in that second tier of contender.
Yeah, no, I agree with both of you. I think that's kind of where it's at for this team. I think they have a shot, but this doesn't really bump them up that much. It's like Ty said, and like you agreed with, Ethan, it's just a solid vet presence for them, but it doesn't really bump them up too much. Anyways, that'll do it for this episode. I know we're running a little bit long on time, a little bit over an hour for the episode, but it just gives you guys good content to listen to whatever you're doing. Make sure to go check out the Cooper Kupp and Michael Thomas video on the channel. And make sure to go check out our prior division previews as well on our YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to comment down below any of your thoughts on these division previews, as well as what you think about Terry McLaurin, anything like that. Make sure to comment down below, and we'll see you guys next week.